I'm Jake.
I'm Tom.
And we are Velocities in Music VIMTV. Today we are here to review My Morning Jacket's brand new 2011 release entitled Circuital. Now, My Morning Jacket, we reviewed Z, you know, a few hundred episodes ago.
Yeah, no kidding.
And you know, we are both My Morning Jacket fans. Tom actually got me into My Morning Jacket, and I've listened to, I actually haven't listened to anything prior to Z, so I know some of you diehard My Morning Jacket fans are probably like, he's not real! Well, I'm working on it, just make some requests, and that's how I listen to music now. So, but Tom loves all of their discography, so Tom, why don't you take it away and kind of give an introduction?
Well, yeah, they're from Kentucky. And so they have this very country-ish sound. They incorporate a lot more alt-country and kind of folksy elements into their earlier stuff. That was a lot more present on albums like After On and Tennessee Fire. And as they started to evolve, they really became this big, I don't want to say arena sound, but the way the stuff is produced is very reverbed out. And so it just makes this big washy sound. But it's cool because they still combine a lot of the folk elements. So it makes for a very unique sound. Now with Z, which has been considered to be their masterpiece, which I gotta say, I'll jump on that bandwagon. I love that album. It just flows from start to finish, nothing but good tracks.
Very focused, very mature songwriting. You have to love it.
Very much so. And they went from there into Evil Urges, which a lot of people hated. It's got like a 60-something on Metacritic. I actually love that album. I think it's a lot of solid tracks, something different for them, but for me, you know, it didn't ruin all the good stuff they already come out with.
There's like, what, 14 tracks in the album?
Yeah, it's a pretty hefty album.
It's a smorgasbord.
Yes, very much so. Lots of different styles. They incorporate some, a lot more electric guitar than they've even ever had, which, I mean, well, they've always had electric guitar, but I mean, you know, not as much as the clean sounds.
Yeah, you saw them experiment a lot with other sounds, different sounds, and none of this, you know, more just experimentation in general.
And I think that threw a lot of people off, a lot of the purists. Right. But Circuital, I feel like, is really a combination of Z and Evil Urges. And to tell you the truth, for me, it doesn't quite work as well as either of them. I think the aspects that they're combining don't really mesh well. I mean, I still like this album. I think all the songs are good, but it kind of seems like they try to take the format and the production style of Z with the songwriting style of Evil Urges, so you get all this variety, but it's like they're trying to produce them too much alike when really it just doesn't work, so some things feel a little bit forced to me. And then also just the thing is, the tracks are pretty long on average. So whereas on Evil Urges you had more tracks, shorter tracks to allow for that buffet of sounds, here you've kind of lopped it off, but you're still trying to fit as much into it, and it seemed a little strained at times.
It's like they're trying to develop all the ideas that they had in Evil Urges, but they're trying to do this by implementing it into the Z formula that got them so much success. And unfortunately, I like this album. It sounds like a little bit less than Evil.
Yes.
And that is the reason why. It just sounds like this. There's just this giant clashing strategic sound there that is just you have you know, some of these or these more experimental track like The Day Is Coming, Out of My System, and then but really Holding On to Black Metal, which I know you like a lot. But and then First Light too. I mean, that middle of the album, there's a lot of more experimental tracks that are in complete stark contrast and almost seem to be fighting with these other songs on this album. That some are a little bit more of the traditional, you know, Z era My Morning Jacket, but you also have these songs that are more. They even have tinges of country, and they're really getting back to their folk roots and everything. And I really like that, which makes me think I would love their early work.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's just clashing with these horns, saxophone. I mean, all this other stuff. It just seems like, you know, steel guitar and saxophone, even though it's not on the same song, when bumped up right next to each other. I feel like the song they're trying to make a straight album listen, and I feel like that's what this was designed to be, because the tracks are actually placed, it seems to me anyways, to be quite purposefully in their placement. But I just don't see the tracks meshing together, and so I kind of get a little disappointed at that. I don't feel like the songs are able to really gain a synergy that a lot of good albums had, that Z had, and that Evil Urges was able to, you know, to kind of go about it in a different path, just from their short tracks lengths, like you mentioned.
I think another problem with this album, at least for me, and this is a very personal thing, is that the first time I listened to it, nothing really made me want to come back.
Right.
I mean, when I've listened to pretty much all their previous stuff, I have always wanted to come back and listen to it. This, I was like, yeah, this is good. I don't really see anything wrong with it, but I didn't find the songs memorable. I mean, I had to force myself to listen to this like 3 or 4 times before I even knew the songs well enough to think, well, yeah, maybe I'll give this one another listen.
And Tom, I think I know why. This is something that I picked up on because, I kind of like this. I've kind of felt the same way about this throughout, and I've listened to this, 5, 6 times now, and to me, I just keep getting this thought that if all the My Morning Jacket, my Z and Evil Urges that I've listened to, I always feel like these guys are always just like bursting with this passion. There's just this brooding energy underneath their songwriting, and no matter how restrained it is, it drives these songs forward. Whereas on this album, on Circuital, I feel like, Jim James and the gang have a gun to their head. They're like, yeah, you will make an album, or we will shoot you. And so it's like
that's a good point.
They just seem so lackluster on some of the tracks. It just feels so forced that I just think that it's like if especially Jim James. I mean, I know that he just seemed kind of lethargic at times, and I know that maybe the lyrics and some of the instrumentation might not have matched that. But that's my point, is that the fact that it didn't match what the instrumentation was doing kind of made me think, what is in this for me? Why should I care? Where's the warmth in why I should be loving these songs? I mean, I think that it's up to the vocalist a lot of times in bands where a vocalist is present to determine how the listener latches onto the music, because otherwise, you have these conflicting kind of cases. Same thing what you were mentioning with Fucked Up. And so I think that's part of what makes this a little bit harder and more inaccessible to get in there. It's not instantly catchy. It's not instantly believable. In fact, I don't think it's nearly as believable as other records that are out there right now, or this. I'm liking this album. I see this album as a strong album. Not even a strong album. I see a lot of good qualities here, but not enough to really put that into the good category. I think there's some serious things holding it back. The number one thing is just track displacement. I find several of these songs to be just fantastic, and several of them to be just skippable. And not bad tracks, just not anywhere near what I would consider to be outstanding good tracks. Interesting. My Morning Jacket fans will like them, but if you're not a diehard, I think that some of these tracks will be good, and some of them, eh. And so to me, that spells 61.
See, I have the same overall album complaints, but I actually like all the tracks.
Yeah, you like some of the tracks I dislike.
Yeah, I do agree, though, that some of these tracks are a little more throwaway than others. I still like them, but it's the kind of thing when you've only got 10 tracks, and in general, they're kind of long tracks, they carry a lot more weight than they did on, like, Evil Urges, where they were shorter track lengths and much more.
There's more focus on the quality rather than the quantity.
Exactly.
And I think that this album took a hit because of it. What do you guys think? Please leave us a comment.
I'm going 70.
Oh,
sorry.
Good. Thank you. You can't forget that.
Yeah.
So that actually, that's a good point. I'm glad you gave your score, because that reminds me that this puts that in the upper 60s, which is a good score, I think, for this album. I'm interested to see what you guys would give this, so let us know what your take was on Circuital. Did you guys like it? Did you dislike it? Tell us why. And in comparison to other albums or My Morning Jacket's, previous albums, what's your favorite? Let us know at www.velocitiesandmusic.com or youtube.com/velocitiesandmusic. Also follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, check out Ian, our third Green Ranger member of VIMTV. He does written reviews and does a blog at vimtv.tumblr.com, so check that out. I'm Jake.
I'm Tom.
And we are VIMTV, moving music critique forward.
We can't lose nothing, but nothing